Hey, y'all. Well, happy National Farmers Day, I guess. They designated that officially, I think it was over 50 years ago, around 1970, as a way to stop and thank our farmers for the food supply and all the things that they bring to the table, literally. Um, it's Saturday. I had a decent week. If y'all are jumping on, do sound off where you're at. I enjoy, we'll do a little roll call here in a minute, and well, I guess we're back. Hopefully we won't struggle too bad with the slow connection. I guess I need to come over here more in the sight line and get out from those trees against my druthers. But we'll give it a shot. What I was saying, sound off where you're at. Love to go back through and read the comments. And everybody's got a story, and they're all relative and important to each of us. And as we talk through some today, and I'd like to see some of the memories of maybe a farmer in your life. I kind of shy away from that title some days, not out of shame by any means, but out of respect, because this is more or less a hobby farm, and I don't know that it's turning the wheels on the nation's food supply by any means. If it is, we're in trouble. But by default, I guess in definition, this is a farmer's spot, and maybe that's what I do. Anyway, I do know I was really thinking more today about farming. Of course, it's a prevalent presence of mine every day here on this place as we take care of the critters and plan the different projects and gardens and growing that we do. And I know here a while back I alluded to a story of my granddad, the patriarch of this place, if you will. They made their living. Now, they were sure enough farmers, so I do get it honest, even though I'm not near the scale that they were back in the 50s and 60s. But this place used to be alive with industrious farming, for sure. He was a watermelon farmer, and thought I'd share this today. I'd alluded to it on the front porch talk we had a month or so ago, and it's always hit home with me. And I'd heard the stories and a little bit of a folklore, and not that I doubted it, but I started off my little working career as a sacker at Brookshire Brothers right on South Street here in town. Young man out of high school and finding his own way. Well, I moved up through the ranks fairly quickly and moved from produce department to produce department across East Texas, but got to rub elbows with the old hats, you called them, there in the corporate office. The older men that had been with Brookshire Brothers for many, many years. And one of them got real close to, and we had several talks. And I guess it was probably 2 or 3 years into my career there, he found out who my granddad was. And I never knew my grandfather on my mother's side. We'll get to that story in a minute as to why. But he said, "You're Joe Alder's grandson, aren't you?" I said, "Well, yes, sir." He said, "I knew Joe. Bought many a load of watermelons and produce from that family." I said, "Really?" "Well, you know me, I'm thirsty for knowledge and stories." And sat down in his office and we talked. And I've heard this many times, but to hear it from someone outside of the family, a different thing. He said, "You know, one thing that impressed me about your grandfather was his work ethic and his integrity, but my grandfather would lease fields all over Texas, down south and throughout the eastern part here, and up around Melrose, different places like that." And he said, "We'd go out as buyers to inspect the fields. And sometimes the fields of other folks were close to it, but we always knew which fields belonged to Joe Alders." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yep." He said, "You could stand there at the fence, you wouldn't have to go far, and you'd see knee prints in the sand." Now that comes twofold, quite honestly. My granddad loved the smell of dirt, and I guess that's where I got it. He could tell a good mix of soil. This old sandy loam. Here comes the goats. They think I'm about to feed them something. Sissy's standing guard with me. I know. Yeah, it's all right. But of course he would smell the dirt for quality, But while he was there, he was a preacher man. I know for a fact that he offered up thanks about every 4 or 5 rows, and trusted his Lord and Savior to make the crop, along with a little hard work. So that's always endeared to me. But he met a early demise, if you would, in our standards. I think the good Lord needed maybe some work done up in the clouds on some farming, maybe. But he was a preacher as well, and kind of an evangelist, a pastor. And he had just taken the church, I guess it was 68, around that time. And he didn't live off tithing. He worked. That went elsewhere. But he'd plow the fields, and he'd just taken a church. They had elected him as their new pastor. I think about this scenario sometimes, things that would rock a church to its core, and this had to be a tough time. But he'd just taken the church. It was August, and the induction ceremony was set for a Saturday evening, I believe. And of course, all the celebration of a new pastor coming in for the flock, and they gathered there that evening, and my granddad didn't show up. That was unlike him. Farmers keep a pretty strict time schedule. Well, my grandmother went to the fields to find him, and she did. He had turned over on a tractor and got pinned underneath, and went on to his reward. But he died doing what he loved, I guess, ahead of preaching the gospel that evening and tilling that land one more time before he went in. So that's what they say about farmers, though, isn't it? How's it go? There's 3 things that'll kill them. It's about the only way they die, right? It's well, I'm gonna get it wrong, I guess. I know it's a lightning strike, a tractor rollover, or old age. Maybe that's what it is. But that's usually how they go. But he developed a pretty good legacy here, even though I never met him, and he never met me. But I guess kindred spirits and that legacy just kind of keeps rocking along. So I do what I can here. Never be at that level, but we strive for it, right? Speaking of letting things be, if you will, I remember my dad, I must have been 8, 9 years old, and even before that and after that, he was a working man, still is, even in his older years. But I remember those mornings we'd be getting ready for school, and blessed to have a complete home with Mom and Dad and my sister, and he always went, of course, he had a job that required him to wear a tie, and I remember he always looked just sharp. Dad did. We'd sit there eating breakfast, and he'd have his little attaché or whatever he needed for the day to conduct that day's business. Would head out the door, and I didn't have a clue what he did in his daily life at that point. I just knew that was my dad, and he was going to provide for us, and everything was always going to be okay. And I thought about that in relation to our Heavenly Father, and how we get out of sorts so many times trying to figure out all the whys and what they're doing, and how the sun is in orbit, and the stars and the nature cycles and just things that happen. You know, we need to go back to that almost as a child, and that's your daddy. He's providing for you. You put trust in him, and you don't question, right? I thought that may be simple for some of y'all, but it's good for me. So there it is. Hey, we've got some really cool stuff. Several people have been pushing me to do it, and I kind of kicking and screaming. Of course, I've got radio background, but when you got a farm, it's like, man, when am I going to find the time to do that? So, well, we're going to make time, and I've talked to several folks that are mentors in my life and people I really respect and enjoy conversation with. I know y'all would too. And we're going to do a podcast. I'll distribute it on YouTube and all the other places as soon as I get time to figure all that out. But going to start recording those next couple of weeks, and kind of a front porch candid conversation about memories and good times and a little faith mixed in, maybe some questions, and we'll take some stuff from the mailbag, questions y'all might have about the place, or just general questions y'all might want us to talk about. But I think that's going to be a good thing and kind of take us back to how it used to be, just sitting on the front porch and talking about life. So that's coming up soon. If y'all want to stay abreast of that, of course I'll share it here, but you can go and connect to the YouTube channel, Washboard Chronicles. Of course, I'm on all the social medias under that same name, and we'll start publishing those soon. Hope to make them available on Spotify and all that other mess or whatever it is. But that's above my pay grade, so I'll let somebody else just worry about distributing. We'll just sit down and do the talking. How of that? So y'all be looking for that. Man, I really appreciate all the growth and the followers. It really humbles me to know that there's so many of us good ones out here, right? I knew it, but y'all prove it every day in your support with your comments and of course our subscribers tuning into the backside of it. And nothing really earth-shattering, but I think that's kind of charity wrapped in dignity sometimes. All of those that care about what goes on here, that kind of helps buy another bag of goat feed or a little dog food for Sissy. Well, they're not going to go hungry whether it comes in or not, but y'all can check that out. And as we ease into winter, we'll be doing a lot more of that because summertime is busy on a farmer that services pools. But winter will slow it down a little bit. We'll have a little bit more time to visit and do some tips and talking, I guess. Well, got to tell y'all a couple this evening. I know I enjoy coming across them, and I know y'all have expressed y'all enjoy me telling them. So we'll do a couple. Along the spirit of Farmers Day and the growth and seeds and all the lessons that creation brings when you're this close to it in the quietness. There was a CEO of a company that was set to retire in the next couple of years. He had a good board of executives, and he wanted to make a decision of who to pass this title of CEO and leader of the company that he had built to. So he called them all in one afternoon and sat them down. He had in his hand a bag. He reached into the bag and passed out seeds all around. I think there's about a dozen of them. And he said, I want y'all to take these seeds and go home and plant them. Take care of them, nurture them, make them grow in a pot. And we'll reconvene a year from now on this subject. And that's how we'll decide who's going to be the next CEO and take my position when that time comes. Well, excitement broke out in the room as they were all in the running. They went home, and Jim went home with his seed to his wife, and he was a very dedicated employee, very smart, and always had the good of the company at heart. They were excited that he was a kind of a hobby farmer as well, and he knew how to grow seeds, so they felt like he would excel at this task. So they took the seed and the proper dirt and the pot, proper water, and put it in the right place and planted it. They babied it for weeks, waiting on it to sprout. Well, 2 or 3 weeks went by and it hadn't sprouted yet. Kind of perplexed him a little bit. Another week or 2 went by, still no sprout. He's taking care of it, making sure it's got light and water. As he's going to work each day, everyone else is raving about how their sprouts have come up and their plant is so healthy, just jockeying each other as to who's going to have the best plant. Months went by and no sprout. Jim became disheartened and did not know what to do, but he left the pot where it was, continued to water it just the same. 6 months went by, still no sprout, no plant. Everyone else was talking about the beautiful flowers and the plants that were growing in their pots. Well, a year elapsed, and the time came for all of them to bring their plants to show the boss and see who was qualified to be the next CEO. As you would know it, 11 pots stood there with beautiful flowers and trees and plants of all kinds. But that 12th pot was a little late that day. As he walked into the boardroom amidst all of the beautiful greenery around him, all he had was a pot with dirt in it, but he sheepishly set it down among stifled laughter and pity among his counterparts. The CEO walked into the room for the meeting and made his round and looked at all the plants and kind of just nodded his head until he came to that empty pot that Jim had brought. He said, "Who did this? Whose is this?" Well, Jim had to own it. No way around it. He raised his hand and said, "Sir, that's my pot. I did my best, but nothing grew." He said, "I'm going to tell y'all something. All 12 of those seeds were parboiled and absolutely useless when I gave them to you. I see 11 of you decided to deceive me, and when your plant did not come up, you replaced it with one of your own. And I don't think I want that leading this company that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into. Jim, you've showed integrity in the face of brutal embarrassment and defeat by continuing to be honest and bringing the only seed that was proper in all of these pots. So, sir, you will be the new CEO when that day comes. Integrity and honesty, no matter what." Right? I thought that was a beautiful way to put it. We have to do that, don't we? Along the lines of honesty, this is an old one, but straight to the point about folks and cheating, right? Old farmer traded in a town there with the baker, and he'd go in, he'd buy a pound of butter, and the other guy he'd bring a pound of butter, and the baker would buy a pound of butter, and the farmer would buy a pound of bread. Well, this went on for several months, and they were good friends, but Baker was a little bit shrewd and suspect to folks for some reason, and he got to where he didn't think that farmer was giving him a pound of butter. So he weighed it, and sure enough, it was short, just like he thought. So he went to the local court there, the little judge, and said, "Sir, I want to bring suit against that farmer for cheating me. I don't know how long he's been doing it, but I buy a pound of butter from him every week, and he's not selling me a pound of butter. He's short me." So the trial commenced, and the farmer sat there as the baker made his case, and the judge turned to him and said, "Well, sir, pretty serious allegations you shorting him on this pound. How do you explain yourself?" He said, "Well, you see, Judge, here's the thing. I don't have upscale scales and ways to measure, so I do it on a balance scale, and I provide that baker that pound of butter based on his pound of bread. So if it's short, sometimes you need to be careful throwing stones in glass houses, don't you?" So I guess the baker learned a pretty hard lesson there. It is short, and the farmer came back to bite him after all, didn't it? Oh, well. Well, let me do a quick roll call. That old sun is set, and darkness is falling. I've still got 6 pigs too many. Yeah, 6. I've got 6 pigs, so that's 6 pigs too many. They are growing a little bit, but I've got a little project up there in the corner. We're going to harvest some venison this fall, and them pigs are going to get in the way of that. So we're going to have to remedy that pretty quick. I may just pin them up for a little while. I don't know. We'll see. But good things. This fall air is something else. We've got some burning to do, and that won't be too far behind. Come on, Sissy. She does not like this electric fence, y'all. I don't blame her. I don't either. Except for it keeps the goats in, right? Let's go to our spot over here on the well, and I'm anxious to see in the comments some of the farmers' stories that maybe y'all will share, right? It'll be all right. Put on where's my spectacles at? They are some disappointed in me today. I'll probably feed them here in a minute, but they've got their hopes up with me coming out there. Let's see who all's on here, and we'll call it an evening. Hang on, Sissy. We'll go in a minute. There's Miss Susan up in Michigan. How are you? Let's see. We got lots of folks across the country dealing with some natural disasters from, was it Montana, and all through the eastern seaboard after Helene, and latest with Milton. Y'all keep those folks in your prayers. They recover normal life again. even though it'll be a shadow of maybe what it was. You don't want to forget that. Christina saying good evening. Howdy to you. Let's see who else is on here. Miss Nancy's up in Kentucky. Thank you for checking in. Who else is on here? Lots of folks watching. I normally don't call you out unless you say howdy. There's Miss Christina. Well, thank you for that. Just spinning yarns, I guess. As long as they're good yarns and they make a pretty quilt, right? Arizona's in the house with Miss Deborah. Good to see you. I am going to call this one out. It snuck in on me. My youngest son, he's industrious this year. That's a hard-working dude. He's up on the East Coast around New York working with a company on the road. I won't call his name out, but he knows I'm talking to him. Love you, buddy. Let's see who else is on here. I'm going to mess up if my daughter's watching it. I didn't see that. Oh, well. There's Miss Carol Chapman Heath. Good evening to you, ma'am. Melissa's in North Carolina. Definitely in our thoughts and prayers. Miss Glenda, howdy to you. Paula Blackwell's in Adirondack, New York. Well, good evening back to you. It's probably already dark up that way, isn't it? Miss Julie, hey, how are you? Good to see you checking in. Skipped around. I think that's everybody. Well, somebody's sighting in the guns, and Sissy does not like those loud noises. She is pacing, so we're going to go get her settled here pretty quick. There's Zach Asher, Smith Groves, Kentucky. I appreciate you. Well, that goes back to you, I can assure you. Y'all are all kind of extended family. We all are as Americans, aren't we? And I do enjoy interacting with you in the comments along the way. I might mention I'm pretty try to stay on top of it. Got a team that helps, and all these silly scammers and hackers that maybe you see an alert that you got a silly comment to you in those videos that get out there publicly. Just hang tight. We'll be deleting and blocking them pretty quick. I wouldn't interact with them. That is not who you think it is, I'm sure. But y'all be blessed. Have a good weekend. Hope you're planning on spending some time in reverence to our Lord in the morning, hopefully in church, and gathering together with like minds and thanking Him for His goodness, right? But, National Farmers Day. Boy, this place has seen it. Sure has. Blessed to be here. Y'all have a blessed evening and be the light. Talk to you soon.